Hey man, thanks for checking out Billy the Kid Adventures. Today's episode, we'll be taking a look at some of the historic sites related to Anne Frank. Anne Frank is the most widely known victim of the Jewish Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazis during World War II. Anne's memoir of her family's struggles as they hid from the Nazis to avoid persecution has been read by millions, along with movie and television adaptations. Anne's family was originally from Germany and moved to the Netherlands in 1933 when she was only 4 years old, as they fled the Nazis' growing influence and mistreatment of Jews. Anne grew up in Amsterdam, living in a modest apartment at 37-2 Merwedeplein Square with her parents and sister Margot. Behind me is the Frank family's third-story apartment where they all lived. And outside of the Franks' former apartment are Stolpersteine, or stumbling stones, from the project of artist Gunther Demnig that commemorates people who were persecuted by the Nazis between 1933 and 1945. Anne's former primary school remains open today in Amsterdam. Some of her diary entries are featured on the school's exterior, including the one noted in the video. Behind me is 6 Montessori School, where Anne Frank attended from 1933 until 1941, when the Nazis forced her and her Jewish classmates to leave the school. The school has since been renamed to the Anne Frank School. As Anne approached her teen years, she came upon a diary in a local bookstore while shopping with her father and dropped a couple of hints about getting it for her upcoming birthday. Behind me is the bookstore where Anne's father, Otto Frank, purchased the diary for her 13th birthday on June 12, 1942. 23 days after getting her diary, the family went into hiding from the Nazis. When Anne's older sister Margot received a call-up notice from the Nazis to report for work, the family knew in reality this would ultimately lead to her being deported to a concentration camp. The Frank family left that night to go into hiding in a secret apartment or annex behind Otto Frank's company office. The memorial statue in Merwedeplein Square in Amsterdam depicts Anne leaving that night en route for what would be a 3-mile walk from the family apartment to their new hiding place. Today, the house where Anne Frank and 7 others hid from the Nazis is a museum in Amsterdam. Our museum visit was both captivating and informative as we explored the annex where Anne and her family hid. The museum did a fine job detailing the life and times of Anne Frank through quotes, photos, videos, and original items. During the 761 days Anne and her family lived in the secret annex, she documented their daily challenges in her now famous diary. One of the locations Anne mentioned was nearby Westerkerk Church. The sheer enormity of the Auschwitz complex located in Poland is incredible. The original concentration camp, Auschwitz I, was supplemented later with Auschwitz II Birkenau, with its many gas chambers and crematoriums, and is where Anne and her family were sent in 1944. More than 1 million people lost their lives at Auschwitz, 9 out of 10 being Jewish, including Edith Frank, Anne's mother. Anne, along with her mother and sister Margot, were in Women's Block 29 at Auschwitz-Birkenau. 10 women shared a single bunk that had no mattress. And here's another view contrasting the barracks now versus then. After a few weeks in Auschwitz, Anne and her sister Margot's health deteriorated, and they were transferred to the unlit isolation block where rats and mice ran over them as they tried to sleep. Already in poor health, Anne and Margot were moved to the BERGEN-Belsen concentration camp in northern Germany in the fall of 1944 as Russian liberation of Poland was underway. Living in even worse conditions than Auschwitz, Anne and Margot died early 1945, weeks before Bergen-Belsen was liberated by Allied troops. A symbolic gravestone is present today where Anne is believed to be buried in a mass grave in a field near the concentration camp. Thanks again for checking out Billy the Kid Adventures. For more adventures, check out my Jim Morrison Paris Pilgrimage video. Link is below.